Hi class, today we are going to work on a stencil from a photograph. We've already looked at how to do stencils from the ground up, and what we did before was work with basic selection tools such as the elliptical marquee tool. We used that one, let me get that. And we dragged a stencil out as selection, and we added with the lasso tool the little nodules on either side of the lemon, and then we created our digital stencil. We're going to do the following here with a photograph, and there are a lot of tools you can use. I'm just going to get out of some of this. And the tools that you can use are what we'll use today is the magnetic lasso. Now, some of you may find that you have a file that is where your layer is the background, and so I want to show you what you can do if that's the case. So just watch this as I kind of set it up that way. If you are already set up like this, then we have done that where the background is the paper and you have to make sure that you're working on your background, which is your white sheet. Let me turn this off. And that your photograph is just a visual for you to be able to see what it is that you're trying to, the art that you're trying to create, or a reference. But I had a sense that as I throw this out, I'm going to throw the background out, that some of you are going to show up with just a background. This is right now a layer, and I'm going to turn it into a background. You can just kind of ignore this if you're already set up. But I have this feeling some of you might have a background. And this is actually how you change a layer into a background if you ever need it. Remember, the difference between a background and a layer is the following. A background erases to your background color in your toolbox. Mine is white right now. A layer erases to see-through-ish, just transparency. And so that's kind of a big deal. But I'm going to set this up for a background just to show you what I would do if I opened a pre-existing file like that I had taken, a picture I'd taken. This is actually what you would get. So let me run through how you're going to set up your file to look like the ones we did in class. First of all, I know I just turned this into a background just because I wanted to start with what you may have. But the way you also can turn a background back into a layer is just by double clicking on it. And then I'm going to do that. I'm just going to turn this into a layer. Now, the reason why I did that is I want to put a white layer below it, and you can't put any layers below a background. So that's why you had to turn this background into a layer. And then what I'm going to do is go down to the upturned page and just fill this layer with white. And this is transparency. Anytime you see a layer with all the other eyeballs off and it looks like a kind of checkerboard reality, that means that it's transparent. And this is what we're going to be painting on. Now, you want to make it white. And the reason why is that if you start painting on a transparent background, you might see sheerness, like see-through qualities, because, you know, when we were spray painting in all the colors last week, some of them were see-through. So I'm going to actually set up where this has, like, quote unquote, like a white piece of paper. It's opaque. And you do this with edit fill. And I'm going to fill this with the use of white. Making sure the opacity is 100%. You can go ahead and click OK. And now what we're going to do is drag that layer below this fish layer. Turn that back on. And you're going to have to be really careful to remember which layer you're on. So we need to be on the photo layer because that's the data in which we're going to be able to create our stencil to start with the magnetic lasso. And the magnetic lasso gives you the ability to actually really work along the edge of high contrast images. This tool sees the difference between color and value and can kind of create a line between those realities. So you want high contrast images. So this yellow against the blue is going to be perfect. However, watch what happens here with the light blue against the blue. Blue and blue, it's going to get a little tricky, and so I'm going to have to work carefully at those parts. Now, this is the only tool that shows you this really weird icon, like the icon of the symbol of this tool. However, if you hold the caps lock key down, you're able to get this circle. And of course, that's what we like. I really like having the circle. I'm actually enlarging the brush with the right bracket next to the letter P. And remember that, or you can shrink it with the left bracket next to the letter P, just to the right of the letter P. And I get it so that it's kind of sized that I'm going to come right in on the line, crosshairs on the line. And the reason why the circle is important is because that's just the only area that's deciphering in contrast to figure out what it in the heck it is that you want. So you can start anywhere on the outer perimeter. I'm just going to start here and click. And then just let go. You don't need to hold down your mouse. Just cruise, move along the edge, and it should do fine here, but watch what happens as we get close to this. Maybe it'll do okay. If it doesn't, don't forget that you can just click and bolt down one of these anchor points if you need it. We call them fastening points. Here it's kind of being a little tricky. Don't double click. Whatever you do, if you double click in the middle of this, you have to start over because you'll turn this into a selection. So take your time, and you can see, whoops, that it kind of wants to go off kilter. This is where I could make my brush a little smaller to tell it, hey, come this way. So I'm moving along. Now I just want to show you, let's say you go off kilter, and I'm just going to do it on purpose, but let's just pretend it was an accident. And you go like this. Oh no. You can back up with your delete key, and that will just kind of delete these fastening points. You can go back in time to where you were. And then, so that's how you back up if you ever have a problem. And we just cruise around this wonderful shape. What a beautiful fish. I don't know what this is, and I bet one of you probably do. But I always lived in the middle of the country in Colorado, so we didn't get much ocean time. Anyway, I'm cruising around this thing, coming around the mountain, coming around the fin, and we just blast around this thing, and I'm, whoops, yep, got to back up. When you get a problem, back up. Come on. And I'm having a problem here, so I'm going to click and take this on a little slowly, move a little more slowly. You can see sometimes it's just not really sure what line you want. And that's going to happen. Like here, it really is wanting to, I'm going to make this smaller. It really wants to attach to the white part. Which is like not the end of the world with what we're doing right now with the stencil, but it would be if you were compositing later. So we're going to cruise along, clicking ever so slightly, coming around the mountain. Here we go. Whoops. See, it's getting a little confused in these areas, and that's why you get a really small brush to say, hey, don't look at that, don't include that white area, because it wants to. So I'm just clickety-clacking my way through this. Don't double click. Take your time. Now we're moving and about to close this. So when we come around, basically you do your very best. You come to the end, and when you do, your icon will change and you'll see a little circle. Let me see if I can see a little better. It's a little circle to the right of the tool, and you click once. This turns this into a selection, and just to take the photo off, that's what we've just done. Just like the lemon, but this time we're getting a little bit more detail going on. And I'm going to save this selection under the select menu. That saves it as an alpha channel, and title this fish. And click OK. Now, that's a hard-edged stencil. I just do want to let you know, because in class we did this. You can also refine the edge before you save it. Just do that. Refining the edge, see how it's kind of like a really hard edge? This almost looks like you cut the fish out with scissors. If you want to like clean up your edge, refine edge is where you go after you create any selection. And I use this, I love it. I'm just going to smooth it out. You should see it'll smooth out. Don't forget up at the top also, you can view this on white or black. And actually I like black, but you could click on white and take a look at it on white. I'm going to keep it on black. And I'm going to feather it slightly at like 0.3, not too much. And that's about all I want to do. And then I'm just going to click OK. So now I have a selection that's different from the other one I had. Even though you can't see it here, it has changed just slightly. And I think I'll save that also. So I'm going to have, because I went here twice, fish using refine edge. So that maybe that's actually the one I'll want. But this is just to show you the importance of refining edge, that you could save it before, but it might be a little bit like it was cut out. Okay, now that you're finished, you're going to actually do your work on the white layer. So just to show you, this is what you want to be working on, because this is where you're putting your art. The photo was just a reference so that we can see the colors, so that we can, use the magnetic lasso to cruise around this to basically select the edge. But once you're done, you want to get onto your layer, and this is where we're going to work. Now, I'm going to get the paintbrush, and now that you're in a paintbrush mode, you actually want to get caps lock off, because now if with caps lock on, you'll see a crosshair, and with it off, you really almost always want to see your brush, in my opinion. I mean, you want to see the size of your brush and so on, and so that's what I would recommend. Okay, now when you're in your brush, don't forget you can option and click. And I'm still looking at my fish, but remember, I'm working on the paper over here in the layer panel, and you can see that here. So you're in good shape, and you could just paint along this. I'm going to sort of kind of paint this edge, and you can also turn down your opacity if you want. I'll just show you what I did, kind of giving that painted look in there. And we can get a harder brush later. I'm going to come in now and option to immediately change the brush into the eyedropper. Option click, come along the edge. Also with your brush, don't forget you usually work with a soft brush. Sometimes I'll kind of turn the hardness up to about halfway, and that we'll take a look at what that's doing. So I'm just having fun. I'm not, one of the nice things is I really try not to be attached to any outcome. So we've got that. Now I kind of am thinking to my head, oh, I should have done the blue first. It's not really a big deal, but I may go painting over that. Now also what I said in class is that I think it's a good idea to kind of get your general shapes in there, and then you can build up the detail. And I'm going to do a defined brush out of the fin and maybe the eye. I'm not sure, but I'm going to just option click again, this wonderful blue, and just come in. And so I'm not going to get too worried about the fact that some of the detail's not there yet. That'll come up and above this part. And then this is where you can turn this off and kind of paint in the area you want. I'm going to get a little harder brush now. Sometimes I'll move into a harder brush. About 80-ish to get this a harder brush, and move it a little smaller with the brackets on the left bracket to make this smaller. Yeah. Option click, kind of get the kind of coat this with different colors, and maybe once in a while just turn that opacity down. See how we're doing. Not loving that. Don't forget you can undo. I didn't like it. Step backward. Edit, step backward. Go to your history panel and step backward. You guys have learned that. And try it again. Now I'm not liking, I want that softer, so that's where you turn down your brush. And so on. Now you can use any brush. Remember, we did a whole lot of lecture on the brush, so that's a good thing. And that's getting better. And that's what you do essentially. I'm not going to be able to finish this, so I can only really give you kind of a general idea of what we were doing. But this should help. Okay, now I'm going to come in and paint in this part, just that dark blue head, and I'm just going to come in with a fairly large brush. And paint that in, something like that. Now, here's the deal. I'm not in love with this yet, and one of the things that my mom always said to me, she's a really good artist, is that you just got to keep going. Keep going, keep going. This is just the basic beginning, and you can go further and further, and of course, I'm not going to do that all this session, but I just want you to see how you continue. So you keep going with this, and some of you are going to get so